White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says she was out for dinner last night in Virginia when she was refused service at a restaurant because she works for the Trump administration. I want to bring in CNN's White House correspondent Boris Sanchez, who's been following these developments. So, Boris, what do we know?
Hey there, Fred. Yeah, we got tipped off to this story after a server at the Redhead restaurant in Virginia posted on Facebook saying, and I'm paraphrasing, that they attempted to serve Sarah Sanders for a short while before the owner of that restaurant intervened and asked Sarah Sanders and her family, 7 of her family members, to leave the restaurant. We reached out to the Red Hen. We've yet to hear back from them, but I reached out to Sarah Sanders and she referred me to her Twitter account in which she confirmed this story. Here's what the press secretary for President Trump tweeted out. She writes, quote, "Last night I was told by the owner of Red Hen in Lexington, Virginia to leave because I work for President Trump, and I politely left. Her actions say far more about her than about me. I always do my best to treat people, including those I disagree with, respectfully and will continue to do so." As you can imagine, Fred, the Yelp reviews for the Red Hen in Virginia are very political right now. Jokes aside, though, we should point out that this is only the latest instance that we've seen a Trump administration official have a hard time while going out to eat this week. We saw reports that Stephen Miller was heckled as he was trying to eat at a Mexican restaurant, and we've seen video of the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security getting booed out of a restaurant here in D.C., also a Mexican restaurant, as a result of the Trump administration's immigration policy. Fred?
Being heckled, being booed, but as far as we know, do we know that anyone working in the White House has been denied service or been asked to leave, like Sarah Sanders, tweets that she was?
From the reports that we heard about the instance with Kirstjen Nielsen, the booing was caused by a group of people, an outside group of people that entered the restaurant, and that essentially impeded her from being able to enjoy the service there at that Mexican restaurant. So she left, but it's not clear if the actual wait staff or the ownership of that restaurant asked her to leave, the way that we've now gotten confirmation that Sarah Sanders was asked to leave. Fred?
All right. Boris Sanchez, thank you so much at the White House. Appreciate that. All right. Joining me right now is Ana Navarro, a CNN political commentator, and Jack Kingston, also a CNN political commentator and a former senior advisor to the Trump campaign. Thanks to both of you for being with me. So, Ana, let me begin with you. You know, this tweet from Sarah Sanders saying she was, kicked out of that restaurant because she works for the president. This kind of in your face, if you want to call it, backlash now. Do you see this as a direct correlation, to what is transpiring right now on the border, or is this bigger potentially than that?
Look, I think this is something that's been building up for the 18 months that Donald Trump has been president. People have seen this president lie and lie and lie and lie time again. They've seen him do outrageous, offensive things. Sarah Sanders, his spokesperson, has become the face of this administration. And I think, some people are offended by the idea of baking a cake for a gay couple. They find that morally offensive. Some people find the idea of tearing children away from their families and then lying about it morally offensive and don't want to be part of that. I think it's a difficult issue. I feel very badly that her children, her family had to witness that. But I also think you make choices in life. You'll make choices in life. And there is a cost to being an accomplice to this cruel, deceitful administration.
So, Jack, how do you see it? Is this potentially just the beginning? I mean, Boris just helped recall, for Homeland Security, Secretary, she got jeers when she was at a Mexican restaurant. Stephen Miller apparently just did as well. And now Sarah Sanders to be asked to leave, reportedly by the owner of the restaurant. Is this an indicator of things to come, that people are feeling, emboldened to express themselves in this manner?
Well, I think it's outrageous. I think it's rude. I have been in public policy for 30 years and sat down with lots of people who have extreme philosophical differences and yet you have to respect them. And to have no respect for the office of the press secretary of the United States of America just shows that this restaurant is just this person's a chicken, little pipsqueak kind of person that really probably has no right to be part of the public debate. in the likes of somebody like Sarah Sanders. I'll give you an example, Fred. Yesterday, I had lunch with Rosa DeLauro, who's a very, very liberal member, very anti-Trump member of the House, but she and I have a great respect for each other. We don't agree on a lot, but we have a good friendship. I think that what happens right now is there's a lot of misbehavior on both sides, a lot of rhetorical irresponsibility, and it leads to things like this. But far worse, frankly, was, a little bit over a year ago when the Bernie Sanders supporter decides to take matters in his own hands and does the hate crime, the assassination attempt on Steve Scalise at the baseball game. So to me, rhetoric, and both sides' rhetoric, does have a cost. And I think that we in Washington, those of us, and I'm not so much in public policy anymore, but I think we have to lead by example and show people that, you know what, you can disagree, but the other person isn't a Nazi. It's okay to disagree.
Okay.
Well, Fred, I also want to say, though, let's, the three cases we've seen this week with Secretary Nielsen, with what's his name, and Steve with, I don't like to pronounce it, and with Sarah Sanders, all involve restaurants, all involve eating outlets. And let's remember that there is a disproportionate amount of Hispanics, of Latinos, of immigrants that work in restaurants, particularly in the D.C. area where there are so many Central American immigrants. And look, this thing with the kids, this thing with the separation of the families has cut deep into the hearts of the Latino community. These are kids that look like us, that sound like us, that could have been us, but for the grace of God, that could have been me. So it's a very emotional time. Mm-hmm. You are asking people to serve. They have a conscientious objection. Mm-hmm. It's hard to tell people, put your convictions away, put your principles away, and go serve them. Look, it's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. And I hate that it's happening. I can tell you I've gotten chased around the supermarket and berated by some Trump supporters. Mm-hmm. It kind of comes with the territory when you become a public person and you become the public face for something. And there is a cost to pay for the decisions you make in life.
And we're seeing there are a variety of ways in which people are speaking out, whether you are famous, infamous, or otherwise,